Welcome to Empathy Corner, Conversations with Toe Counselling. I'm your host Tony Matthews, and today I'm joined by Jeff. In today's episode we'll be talking to Jeff about his own personal experiences with depression and anxiety, and also the impact that it has on our society today. Hello Jeff.
Hello.
Okay, so can you tell us or give us a little bit of background of your personal experience and your journey with depression, anxiety, how it's impacted you through the years, and the effect that's had on personal relationships, work relationships, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first time I ever really suffered was probably it was back in 1999, I think it was, when my mum died. It was really hard seeing her in hospital, but she ended up in hospital. What happened was she got flu. There was a really bad flu about that year. I was in the army and I caught it, and I went home and I gave her the flu. That flu really hit her immune system hard, and she ended up with meningitis, which a complication of that is what killed her.
Wow.
Now, I blame myself for that. To this day I still blame myself for it, even though people have told me I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it put me in a really horrible place. I'd met an occupational therapist back then who put me back together.
Yeah.
And I started functioning again, but it didn't go away, obviously. Well, to this day I still...
Well, you said you still
blame myself for it. But then recently, I had a real bad bout this year, and it hit me a lot harder. I didn't realise how bad I was getting, and I was spiralling, things were going downhill, and I was trying to continue, but I couldn't. What had happened, a friend of mine, he's a local guy, people might know him, Malk Sampson, he ran Bideford Motorcycle Centre, a very good friend of mine, and he got ill with cancer.
Yeah.
And when he got ill, he had one of his biggest anxieties was that lack of dignity in his final days, and he didn't want to go into the hospice, but he didn't want anybody he didn't know looking after him. So I made him a promise, and I said to him that I would do it for him, and I did. Right, and I was there right the way through. Done everything for him, but it was really hard to see. Poor bloke. I mean, it really was sad. But that was it. But I did what I promised for him. And I think after that, being a counsellor, I just went back and just thought I really need to get back to what I'm doing. And the more I'd done, I think the worse I was feeling, and it kept manifesting. I was, I'd have points, where I'd be driving and I'd just have to pull over and park on the side of the road, and I'd have a cry because it kept coming round and round and round.
Yeah.
There was a few other bits and pieces happened. My business got into a bit of financial trouble, which thankfully it's okay now. But it was all kind of bricks in the wall, I think, and it built up, and I got to the point where I wasn't functioning at all. When I say I wasn't functioning at all, I was still convincing myself that I had to get up and function, but I was waking up, doing nothing all day, and then going back to sleep. It was difficult to even. Sometimes I wasn't showering, I wasn't eating properly, but I couldn't see it. And where I was, I suppose, in that negative spiral, everything got very difficult. I stopped sleeping as well, and that, I think the lack of sleep, I was maybe sleeping 45 minutes a night sometimes, but I was waking up every time I went to sleep. I had a nightmare, waking up drenched in sweat, so I didn't want to go to sleep either. But it got to the point, like I say, I lost probably 3 months that I can't account for. But I had people like my long-suffering wife Helen, who was telling me I needed help, but I was so set on
managing it yourself?
Well, yeah,
Or trying to?
trying to. I mean, when looking back, it was completely ridiculous because I wasn't managing anything. I was, I was barely functioning. I think that, I think I was lucky that I could make it to the toilet. Really, and I know that's, it was almost that bad. And I think when but I had some other friends that were telling me as well, but like I said, I wasn't listening, and I think when it really hit home was where I had a couple of points where I lost my eyesight, and it's called something because the doctor explained it, but it's like reverse tunnel vision. So you've got a little bit of peripheral vision, but you can't see anything in front of you. And I thought I really need to do something. I probably need to do something about this now. I was also feeling I was feeling so bad that I was getting these really intrusive thoughts, feeling like the world would be better if I just wasn't in it. My children, my wife, friends, everybody. I felt like just a drain on everybody, and although I knew it wasn't true, I still kept having these intrusive thoughts, which is why I thought I really need to see the doctor here. And I went to see the doctor. My doctor, Dr. Smithson in Northam, is fantastic actually. He's been absolutely brilliant, and he gave me some medication. It took a little bit of time to get the medication right, and he referred me to some counselling.
When you say you decided that you were going to go and get some help, see the doctor, what was it initially that prompted that?
It was people telling me, and I think it was one day when I realised that although I was convincing myself that I was functioning, realising that I was waking up, sitting on the sofa, not doing anything for a whole day, and then just going back to sleep. And I don't know how long I've been doing that for. Well, like I say, I've got a period of about 3 months that I can't really account for at all.
Yeah.
And it was, partly Helen, it was Malk's wife too, Tracy and Steve Pranley, they all said to me, you're not functioning, you need to, and they were really good. It was a difficult one to swallow, I suppose, because I've grown up in a very, I was in the army, I grew up in a housing estate in London where it was very...
Show no weakness.
Exactly that, and it was difficult to say, actually, I need some help here, I'm not coping, but I obviously did, and I think it was the intrusive thoughts as well that really drove it home, because I didn't want to feel like that. I didn't want to have them thoughts, but I didn't know how to stop them. Like I say, I knew that they weren't right, but I still kept having them, and I thought that I needed to do something before the intrusive thoughts took over, I think. Yeah. And I think that was when I decided, or when I agreed to, because it was, and again, it was Helen that really did push forward to go to see the doctor. Yeah. And that was the big turning point, I think.
So if we go back to you looking after Malk, during that period, did you feel or notice any indication of anxiety and depression for yourself while you were looking after Malk? Oh
yeah. I did. I know. One of the hardest things was watching him deteriorate. He was a champion motorcycle racer. He had his own business. I helped him when I helped him with his business and all sorts. But watching him go downhill, seeing that slide and seeing him, the loss of dignity he had with it. Yeah. It was really, really difficult. Actually, it was horrible. I don't regret any of it, obviously, because I gave him as much dignity as I could in those final weeks or months. He did deteriorate quite quickly, but yes, I could. But I also thought that when it was over, and we had a great funeral for him. We had a great send off, and I did think that hopefully it will be part of moving on from it, but it didn't. Yeah.
How long would you say it's been since Mel's passing and to today, overall, where the anxiety and depression has taken hold? How have you managed with it since seeing the GP and getting the help?
Well, I mean, I wasn't managing it. So when I first, I was catastrophising everything to the point where even to go out to the shops, I would sit and I think, I've got to go to the shop, I need some food. And I think, oh yeah, but everybody's going to know what they're going to be looking at me. They're going to know I'm not right. I mean, I knew I wasn't looking well anyway because I wasn't looking after myself. But I was convinced that people would know. They'd look at me, or I'd bump into someone who, and I started feeling, my friends, especially if I tell anyone, I thought everybody would be looking down on me. I thought I'd be letting people down at my business, letting people down in my councillor's role, and my anxiety went off the scale with it. One of the things I did found that helped with that was the doctor prescribed me propranolol, and it did really take a dent out of it. But I struggled with that for quite a long time, and I'd find that up until recently, I would have something, if it could be the smallest thing would happen and it would spiral me back downhill. And one of the things that did come back really strongly was the anxiety. Even when I pulled myself out of the depressive, when I had the help to climb out of the depressive hole that I was in, the anxiety was one that I still had to battle with. Them physical symptoms that I couldn't rationalise, and I couldn't rationalise them either. It felt completely irrational towards, as I was getting better, but I still had them. But I would say probably the last 2 months are when it's really improved. I don't think I would be sitting here now. Well, I wouldn't be sitting here now if I was still anything like I was. There's no way I'd be able to talk on something like this, because I struggled with just talking to people in general.
You mentioned medication. What was it again?
Propranolol.
Are you still on that now? Or?
I haven't actually. I've got some that, in case I need it.
Was that for depression and anxiety? Or that's an anxiety medication, but that's specifically to take away the physical symptoms of the anxiety. The type, it's in the chest, knotted stomach, and it does take away the physical symptoms. I was really surprised at the difference that did make for me, because I wasn't sleeping. The doctor put me on. First of all, he put me on amitriptyline and zopiclone, but I couldn't function on that. I was getting up and slurring like I was drunk, I think. Yeah, I'm aware of amitriptyline.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it was great, but it wasn't really.
It's one of those you've got to time right.
Yeah,
to sleep and get up.
Wasn't really conducive to having any sort to function. I don't think I really. I should. I wouldn't suggest driving around on it either. No. Then moved on to something else that I can't remember the name of now, but it didn't. It just that was one that just, although it took away all the depressive feelings, it just made me feel like and when I explained it to the doctor, I said I feel like I'm trying to swim through treacle every day, and I can't really do anything. I feel heavy and I feel lethargic. And then he changed me onto sertraline, which upset my stomach for a little while. Yeah. And I lost a bit of weight, which I could have afford to lose at that time, because I'd started eating again, and I'd started eating a lot. But that seems to have really put me on a level. Now, and I'm still taking the sertraline. I think, and I think that was again something that really did help with the whole state I was in. Historically, I would have, I've never understood the medication side of things, but and obviously to me it was still stigmatised.
I was just going to say the stigmatisation around medication and the thought and the idea of taking it. I don't want to say horrific, I think that's the wrong word, but people put a lot of negative aspects around that because they don't want to take medication, they don't want to rely on medication, they don't want to be on medication for years and years and years, which some people are, but in my experience working with clients and such as well, medication can be used as a short term to help with the work that we do in the room, where the medications can then be phased out as the work goes on.
Yeah, and I mean I would agree with that. I think that, like I say, that to me that stigma attached to it was a feeling that I was weak in needing it, and I should be strong. I should be a stronger person. I should be able to deal with this. But actually, what I've found out is if you've got a hormone imbalance or whatever, and you use one of these medications to get rid of that balance, you can then deal with the underlying problems that you can't deal with while you're in that state and you're in that negative cycle. So, I would say take away the stigma with them. I mean, if it was put to me that if you cut your arm, you put a plaster on it, or you go and have some stitches. Or if you've got a headache, you take paracetamol. What's the difference with that and taking a medication because of a state of mind? And that, when you think about it like that, it does kind of make sense.
Yeah. With everything that's gone on, because I'm aware you had stomach cancer as well.
Esophagus, yes.
Esophagus. I was close.
Close, yeah.
I remember. Ish. The anxiety and the depression around that. I mean, I remember when that happened. And no one really knew what was going on other than your tight inner circle. Can you tell us a little bit about how the anxiety and the depression sort of impacted your life then?
Well, I mean, that was another one that I keep things to myself. Yeah. And I didn't. That was a huge thing. And when they removed my esophagus, I didn't quite realise how much of or the size of the operation, how big it was. It wasn't until I went to the hospital on the morning that I was having it and checked myself in, and then the nurse said, "What are you here for?" And when I said, she said, "Oh, well, that's the second biggest operation we do here. That's just below a heart bypass."
Wow.
Oh, but it was probably a good job she didn't tell me, because then I would have worried about it. Yeah. I mean, the recovery, it took me about 4 years to recover, really. Yeah. Of course, yeah. Yeah, you remember when I was sitting in Wetherspoons with you, and I couldn't even eat anything because and you were saying to me, "You need to sort yourself out, dude." And I'm saying, "I'll be all right. I just need to take a few painkillers." Again, though, that's that's that whole thing around admitting a problem and feeling weak because of it, feeling like you shouldn't be able to, or you shouldn't, and you should be able to deal with things better. And actually, your friends aren't going to judge you for things like that. Most, if people who are your friends, they're looking out for you. They're not ever judging you with things like that. Which I think that's something that I've learned recently. Yeah. Especially with, like I say, the people that have really been there for me, the people that did know what was going on because I couldn't hide it from them. I've got to mention Sue, Malk's wife, again. She's been fantastic. She takes me out to, because Malk used to go to gigs and she's got no one to go with, so I go with her because, and it's really good. It's really nice, but it's also, she messages me, she looks out for me. But Steve and Tracy Prangley as well have just been really good friends, and it doesn't matter. And how I've been, they've wanted to help. And whereas I've said I just feel like a complete drain on you, they say it's not. We just want to help you. I mean, to give you an example of how much of a good friend they are, Stephen Tracy's daughter Lauren had a baby. Yeah. She did down in Tavistock Way, and so they went down there, and they were down there all night. Or Tracy was in with her because they couldn't all go into the hospital. Steve came home. On the way home, Tracy stopped off and dragged me out to make sure I'd had something to eat in the morning. Now, she must have been absolutely worn out. She'd been up all night. It was obviously quite... I can't imagine how she must have felt, her baby, having a baby. It must have been... Well, it was quite traumatic for her as well. Yeah. But her thought was, I need to make sure he's had something to eat on the way back home. And that's where you realise, that actually these people... You have got friends around you that you're not that drain that you feel like you are. You're not. People actually want to help, and people are not judging you for what's happening. I think that my judgment should have more been for how I dealt with it than what had happened, really, because I dealt with it terribly.
We kind of do when we go into that mode of panic.
Yeah, most definitely. But like I say, it was convincing myself that I needed to get up every day and function when I just wasn't functioning at all, and not listening to people when they're saying to me, "You need some help," and no, I'll be all right. What I really need is a bit of sleep. No, what you need is some real help, and then you'll be able to get some sleep.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was when I was addicted to opiates, when I'd gone out of the military. I don't know if you remember.
I remember you telling me, yeah.
One of my mates used to meet up with him every now and then, and he would not harp on about it, but would mention the fact that, I'm still taking the opiates and they're a problem, and I'd always say it wasn't an issue. Yeah. I've got it under control.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But, it's the same thing, you don't listen to people.
No. Again, it's, I'm strong, I can deal with it, I know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And it's not... I think in some ways it's stronger. It makes you a stronger person to admit you've got a problem than denying it. And that's something I've learned recently. And I'm going to be 50 next year, and I'm only just learning these life lessons. Sometimes I wonder how I've got this far.
Yeah, fair one. So if we go back a little bit to the cancer side of things, before everything was known to the rest of us. How were you feeling because it's a huge life impact, being told that you've got cancer?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you were feeling when you were told in regards to the anxiety and the depression sort of side of things?
Well,
what you were thinking going through?
Yeah. It was like my world had ended, and I was told, don't go online and look things up. And so I went online and
as we do,
and as you do, googled it, looked up life expectancies, and went, oh my good God, I've got. I think I had a 10% chance of making it to 5 years, and so.
Good old Google.
Yeah. Well, but see, the reason they said not to is because predominantly when people are diagnosed with esophageal cancer, they're older because it doesn't present any symptoms.
Right.
And by the time they find it, like they found one by accident, by the time they find it, it's already metastasised and it's spread. Yeah. But it's been predominantly, the elderly anyway.
Yeah.
And so, whereas them statistics are true, they're not a true picture when you take into account everything else, because my tumour was a T1B, which is it was tiny. I mean, it was like a pinhead, and it just it was literally just in the wall, and so they took it out and took out 33 lymph nodes. There was nothing in any of them, so there was no reason it should come back. It was life changing in so much that I've got side effects that I will live with for the rest of my life. Yeah, of course. But it's better than the alternative. But yeah, when I was told about it, it was like my world had ended, I think. Yeah. And
because you've got a couple of kids as well.
I got 3 children, and well, I say 3 children, I've got 3 adults now. But Helen's also got 3. And it was just the whole what's going to happen. And I don't think I dealt with that properly either, really.
How do you mean?
Well, I probably should have asked for a bit of help in that respect then, but they used to say to me, okay, but you say, I'm fine. I'll be all right. I'm going to walk this off. It'll be a breeze. Obviously, it wasn't.
That's the man thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Of course it was. But like you say, it is a life-changing event, and I think I probably should have asked for a bit more help than I'd had then. But I wanted to be full of bravado and carry on and
man it out.
Man it out. Yeah, absolutely that. Yeah, I'm big enough and strong enough to deal with this myself.
Yeah. And then we get so far and realise that we're actually not.
Yeah.
Very scary stuff.
Yes. yes. But I think, like I say, this latest episode has been the worst by a long way, and it's taught me a lot. And the counsellor that I've been seeing, because the doctor referred me to Talkworks. I don't know, you've obviously heard of
I'm aware of Talkworks.
Yeah, I thought you might be. Ziggy Dunhill, she's absolutely fantastic. But this is where I was in such a state, and I was trying to, but I couldn't rationalise it. Because obviously, being on the spectrum, everything needs to be rationalised.
Yeah.
And I couldn't rationalise what was going on, and it was horrible. And it wasn't till I went to Sarah, and immediately clicked with her, which I think was a big thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I was a complete open book to her. I thought, I've made this step. There's no point in half measures. I need to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I told her absolutely everything. Brutal honesty about myself, about how it had affected my relationships with people, about even showed her text messages and all sorts that I'd had with people, and it was her that picked it apart. Where I assumed that it was what I'd been through with Malk, and then looking back to obviously my mum. I suppose it was all part of it, but she said to me, actually, what you're screaming for, she said, is reassurance. She said, the biggest thing in your life at the moment is you really need some reassurance. And she said to me, what are you so scared of? And I sat there absolutely dumbfounded for about, it seemed like an hour, but it was probably about, if it was 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it all sort of clicked into place, and I thought, actually, do you know what, you're right. And it was the being scared of everything, losing everything, losing my wife, losing my family, losing my business. It was all because it all felt like it was on the edge, and it was all about to go away.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really helping because of how I was, but that was such a big lesson. That was such a big life lesson for me. That and it was like one of them. I suppose when she said that to me, it was like when them grey clouds just opened up for a minute and a ray of sunlight came through, and I thought, you know what, you're right. And it all sort of fitted together then.
Yeah.
I've done a sleep workshop as well, which was very good. But it made me realise that part of the reason I was so bad was because I couldn't figure myself out. Whereas Ziggy on the outside looking in, obviously being trained to do it, knew what she was talking about and was able to help with it. And that's where I think, and I would say to anybody now, if you've got a problem, go and get some help, because you can't. There's no point in trying to do this all by yourself, because from personal experience, you can just make yourself worse.
Yeah.
And especially when you're fighting with yourself, it doesn't help. And then the symptoms that surround it, it becomes a real negative spiral downwards. And the worse that spiral gets, the worse you get, and it all feeds in together. And I think that, asking for help and realising that it's not a weakness is a really big thing.
Yeah, it really is. But it is so difficult to ask for that help.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it definitely is. Well, I don't think I'd have a problem now. Having done it once, like I did, I don't think I'd have a problem doing it again. And I would advise anybody to take that stigma out of there's no stigma attached to it. Like I convinced myself there was.
Yeah.
Because what I found out was, when I made that step, everybody went, oh, we're so pleased, we're so glad. And it wasn't, oh, you're so weak, there was nothing, there was no negative surrounding it. It was suddenly a lot of positive, which again was really helpful. I think that the whole depression, anxiety thing can be a real negative. It can put you into a real negative cycle that prevents you from helping yourself. And stepping outside of that, and like I say, knowing what I know now, I'd recommend anybody go and get some help. If you need it, go and get it, because you won't regret it, and people won't look down on you for it. They'll actually, people are pleased when you do eventually help yourself.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned you're a counsellor.
Yes.
You know, and you've got your own business, and then there's the family side, friends. You know, working for the council. You know, the impact that what you've gone through has had on work relationships and the work that you do within the council, and then obviously your own business when you were worrying about the financial side you mentioned, and then obviously, you know, the family relationships. Can you share a little bit about the impact that it's had around those relationships that you've got?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think being a counsellor is enough to make anyone depressed. But no, actually, it's nice when you can help people.
Yeah.
What I did find though was, you know, I did have a few months where I didn't function, and I wasn't able to do my job properly there, and you know, and because I hadn't told anyone, and because I'd hidden away, people did kind of, you know, some of the parish councils were getting a bit fed up with my lack of any sort of help or contacts, and which I completely understand. But then again, when I was honest with myself, and I just went to them and I was honest with them about what had happened and where I'd been, they were all fantastic as well. And they said, you know, we get it. You know, you need to be all right.
Yeah.
And
so they went from very, very impatient and badgering.
Understandably, you know, because obviously they just must have seen me as not. Or, you know, you immediately think, well, why isn't he doing his job?
Yeah.
What's he not doing?
And then sharing what was going on.
And then when I pulled myself out and I was able to go back and I explained, everybody has been so good.
Yeah.
But even in my business, I didn't want to go into work because, again, I was convinced that if I went there, everybody would see through that, you know, that mask that I'm wearing. That I'm pretending. I mean, I wasn't wearing a mask, even though I thought I was. But you know, and it did fill me with anxiety. To the point where I couldn't go into work for a little bit. And it took quite a bit to overcome that. I think the hardest thing is thinking that people that you're close to and people that you know that you've got a lot of respect for, people that you like, are looking at you in a negative way. Yeah, it's really, really difficult, and so it's easier to. It seemed easier to avoid it than to walk myself into that situation. Yeah, which, like, you know, didn't help the situation at all, because it meant that I wasn't doing anything to help with the problems that were there. And the only way I was going to be able to do that was to sort myself out. But I couldn't see it at the time. It was, I'll be all right. You know, I just need a bit of sleep. I'll start functioning properly, and then I'll be, you know, by this time, you know, give me a couple of days, and I'll be all right. But you know, like I say, I lost sort of 3 months of my life where I don't know what went on.
So you say 3 months. And this is quite recent as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. It was. I mean, we're talking February, March, April,
right?
Maybe even May as well. When I say 3 months, I don't actually know how long it was. That's, you know, it's just a guesstimate. But there's a big period, and I can't really remember anything from it. Right. Which is quite frightening as well. I think that's possibly partly where I was just doing absolutely nothing. So my brain just wasn't remembering it. You know, that repeated cycle of just getting up, sitting on the sofa, telling myself I need to function, and then going back to sleep again. It just, you know, or maybe my brain just shut it out because of how bad I was feeling. Because I know that it can work like that sometimes. But yeah, I don't know actually how long it was. But getting to that point. Yeah, I think it was February, March. February, March, April, May, probably, and then June. Yeah, I would say so possibly 4 months, and then coming out the other side of it. I think that this is where counselling helps. It all made everything fit together, and once you get that ray of light through the clouds, it all of a sudden changes your entire perspective on things, I think.
Yeah. It's been a little while now, the recovery side, and you say you're still on the sertraline.
Yes.
What is it that you do now that helps with the anxiety and the depression side of things with your life to help you move forward and manage and cope with work and home life?
Well, one of the things that we done was when I get an anxiety feeling, for example, write it down, and then write what's reinforcing it, and then look for what's against it, and then write what outcomes are going to happen. And actually, when it was a big help to make like a diary of everything that was going on, and looking at, and when I was looking at these negative thoughts that I was having, but then looking at the other side of it and thinking, actually, is this true? I think it's challenging your own thoughts, and then looking at really what's the outcome. Sometimes, the outcomes have been actually, so what, but it's all. I think there was just a lot of work around, like I say, challenging thoughts and changing my mindset into situations. Started doing things that were going to be positive. There was going to be no negative surrounding them. Like, I've started making and repairing vintage watches. In fact, I'm about to try and launch my own micro watch brand.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that one.
Have we got a business name yet?
No, not yet. Okay. Well, there is something in the office. We're not 100% sure on that yet. I'll be launching a YouTube channel, but that actually that was a big thing, to find something that I could sit there and do. I think the first time I took a watch apart was the first, because I couldn't concentrate on anything either. Was the first time I'd sat and done anything for the, and I think it was 3 hours in total. Yeah. And then 3 hours just went in the click of my fingers. But I felt so calm afterwards, and I think that was the first time I had a really good night's sleep as well. And so I picked up on that, and I found something that I really enjoy. But moving forward was starting to do things that would be positive. Like, I started going back to gigs with Sue. I went out for a night with Steve. I went out for a night with Tracy. Yeah. And it was all positive reinforcement of just that told me, your friends don't hate you. They're good to hang around with you. But it's your negative mindset that's causing all these problems, and then slowly building on that. But yeah, and creating a diary again. Putting the positive things in the diary as well. But when you put it all down as well, and then you read back over it, again, it's really eye-opening sometimes, especially when you start to change how you are. And when you read back, you think, I can't believe that actually I put that much negativity on going to the shop, for example. Or, I can't believe I was that worried about bumping into someone that I know if I went out the house, because actually what I really needed to do was see people that I know.
So you reintroduce the idea of going out and mingling with people.
Yeah, exactly that,
yeah. Yeah, and reintroducing that element of fun, hobbies, and bringing all that positive stuff back into your life, where it just disappears and fades away.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was surrounded. There was a lot of negative things that happened, but all the positive things had to stop as well. Yeah. But I think part of changing that was putting myself in positive situations. Yeah. Retraining my brain really to not go into fight or flight mode every time over everything. Or I think it was more flight mode than anything else.
Did you find it difficult to bring back those positive things?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And again, the people that was helping me will tell you that, because they would say to me, "Oh, do you want to?" And I'd say, "Oh, I would, but I've got to."
Excuse.
And then I'd stutter and stammer and look for an excuse not to do it and not to go out. And they all realised I was doing that, and so encouraged me to do more, which was good. And also through counselling, I was told to do more, and I worked really well with my counsellor, and so I did make that concerted effort to get out and start to put myself back into positive situations, which was a big step as well.
So what was the thought process in regards to not wanting to do something when somebody came and said, let's go do this or let's go do that and come and join us?
It just anxiety around it. Sometimes I don't, there wasn't even negative thoughts, so to speak. It was the physical anxiety that would just hit me like a tidal wave. And I'd think straight away, I can't do that. I need to stop. And I would find that as soon as I'd made an excuse, it didn't matter how ridiculous it was, and it had been accepted. That
stick with it.
That feeling would go away. I mean, I think it didn't ever go away completely at that time. It was quite bad, but it wasn't that tidal wave of extreme panic.
The way that you described that, it was almost, the thought that came into my head was, whew, that was close.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. I've dodged a bullet there. Yeah.
Fair one.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So how would you say the stigma around anxiety and depression hits our society today?
I would say that people still feel. I mean, when we were younger, it was something that was never spoken about, and I think that it was very, very stigmatised. I think that today, I don't think it's stigmatised at all today, but it just takes you to realise that. And this is why when you mentioned about me coming in and talking about it, I had no problem doing it, because actually there is no stigma surrounding it, and people are very understanding. And I think especially since COVID, I think people have been a lot more understanding, because there's a lot more people that are suffering. A lot of people suffered during lockdown, understandably, and I think that it's meant that it's brought it to the forefront, so to speak, but it's taken a lot of that stigma away, or I've now realised that, whereas I didn't. And I think people are very understanding in general.
Yeah.
Well, that's my experience anyway.
Quite a story.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, my life has been that veritable roller coaster. I've had a few ups, I've had a few downs. Just had a big down, so I'm on the way up now, and let's hope it keeps climbing. I've seen no reason it won't.
Absolutely.
And again, I can be positive about things now, whereas a few months back I'd been, it's all going to go wrong again, and this is just going to happen. But it's about changing that mind. I think it's about changing your own mindset and learning the coping mechanisms and trying to change that negativity into positivity is a big thing.
And for listeners, it's if you feel there is a problem, look to find that help and that support. And if people are noticing there's a difference and there's a change, to listen to what people are saying. Most
definitely. I think that you can be the last person to really know how bad you are when, or I know I was. I mean, I was convincing myself to the point where, like I say, I was doing nothing all day, but convincing myself that I was going to get up and function, and doing absolutely nothing. And if people said to me, "You need help," I said, "No, I don't. I'm fine. I'm a bit tired. I need some sleep, and I'll be fine." Actually, no. When I look back at how I was, and with complete disbelief at my self-belief of how there was nothing wrong with me, how I was okay, when I quite obviously wasn't. And it is, people aren't saying these things to you just because they're not trying to bring you down.
Yeah.
They're actually trying to help bring you up, which again, it can be a bit of a pill to swallow, I suppose. To admit that you can't do it all alone and you do need some help. But I think people do notice it in you before, especially how bad it is before you notice it yourself.
Yeah. Just before we finish today's podcast, do you have any other advice or anything that people can use to move forward and look at getting the help that they need?
I would say, don't be afraid to ask for it. It is so important. I mean, from personally, and I think the earlier you can pick up on it, the better. Get in early. Don't wait until it's swamped you. Don't wait until it's overwhelmed your entire life. If you're starting to feel these problems, the sooner you can deal with them, I think the quicker and easier you will come out the other side of it. I think my recovery, so to speak, has been quite quick anyway. I've been very lucky my doctor has been very, very good, and the councillor I met, I clicked with straight away, and she picked everything apart and just made me understand it. And I think that was a big thing for me, understanding why I was feeling like I was. Yeah. And once I rationalised it in my own mind, it helped me to stop that internal battle, I think. There's a lot of help out there. Don't be afraid to ask for it, and don't think that people are going to look badly on you for it. In fact, I think people will respect and give you all the help they can on a personal level as well. Yeah. If you do ask for help.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much for coming in today and sharing your story with us. And as usual, we've got details for support and links in the description of the podcast. And also we have the Facebook group that we've got as well, Empathy Corner, Conversations with Toe Counselling.
Yes.
And you can join the group and join in. And if you want to join one of the podcasts, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. Complete respect for you with what you've been doing, because when from when I first met you, you've always come across as a person that's got a lot of empathy, I think. But what you've built and what you're actually doing, hats off to you and a lot of respect. And if anybody does need some help, come and see this man, because he does know what he's doing. He's one of my friends, and even I found it difficult. And I don't think you knew what was going on until.
No, not at all.
No,
until you mentioned it.
No, I know. Yeah, like I say, I hid it from everyone, and I really shouldn't have. Yeah, and I really shouldn't have. Tony was a great guy. So yeah, if you've got any problems, and the links are there. Don't be afraid to use them.
Absolutely.